We see films, film festivals, a lot of glamour, red carpet, but the reality is different.
Your latest documentary is called Lupi Nostri. You were quite close to the wolves, right?
I always had like panic. Dogs, wolves, it's cold, mountain. It was for me really terrible.
You were up in the Alps and it's maybe not the easiest terrain to walk up with equipment.
I am terrible in the mountain. I have fear from the height.
Me too.
All scenes were one shot. You don't have, another opportunity to film it. The reality is sometimes it's better than fiction.
Samer, your work sits at the intersection of science and cinema. And for listeners who are just getting to know you, could you explain a little bit about your background and what the stories are that you're trying to tell through film?
First of all, thanks for the invitation. I was born in Syria, in the Middle East. And in the Middle East, we have food, water, and stories. And we love others because of the stories. We hate others because of stories. We make wars because of stories. So everything is about stories. And for me, I always wanted to tell stories. And I always wanted to be a filmmaker. But the reality is different. If you are born in Syria, your survival mode said, oh, you need to go for science, for something where you can make money. So it went very well for me with science. Even when I finished my bachelor study, they gave me a grant to do a PhD. And many of my colleagues, they said, okay, we want to go to Germany. Germany, big institutions and science and so on. But I said, oh, no, I don't want to learn German. So I decided to go to Spain. And in Spain, I faced the same problem with the storytelling. So I realized that science is about facts. I had story phobia in Spain because you, as a scientist, you are not allowed to tell stories. You deliver facts. So I also realized the importance of storytelling. And at the end, I decided to change to filmmaking. This was my way to tell stories and also to realize my dream to be a filmmaker. And now I am here in Switzerland, and even at home, my kids speak not German but Swiss German.
So in the end, you were forced to
Yes,
still learn
exactly.
German. You didn't want to, but you had
Exactly.
to. At what point did you have the courage to say, okay, I need to tell stories, so I'll make this switch from science to filmmaking?
In my postdoc, I did a postdoc in Sevilla. I had a great supervisor. His name is Ramon Sorguer. So we were also friends. So one day I said, okay, Ramon, I want to make some films about science. And I was at the beginning saying, wow, now you tell your supervisor that you want to make films. This is the end, But it was a surprise for me because he said, yeah, Samer, do it. And maybe you do a master in filmmaking. And he said, we have also some extra money, so I will buy a camera for you. And he bought for me the Canon 5D Mark III. And this was my first camera, and I did a master in filmmaking.
So you're still a scientist. Does that change the way you view the world also through the lens of your camera?
Of course, because now for me, it's not only about facts, but it's more about emotions. Because filmmaking, storytelling, it deals more with emotions more than facts. Even we deliver facts and when we make film, but it's more for emotions.
And how do you find the balance between being factually correct, but also allowing the emotion to come through?
Well, I think that emotion is part of science, because there are many scientists, they make research about emotion. So still, emotion is part of science, but having the balance between them is like utopia. It's you never can do it. In my case, okay, I focus on emotions when I make films. Also, I deliver some data. So in my last film, we have emotion, and also I show some data, and audience need to decide. And usually they decide by emotion and not by facts.
So what do you think film can do for science communication that maybe a traditional science paper cannot achieve?
if you ask any scientist about what you can do with film, they will say, okay, visualizing my science, which is correct. It's a big part about making things visual. People can see them. But again, we go back to emotion. For me, it's about touching the emotion, because scientist is a collective work. You deal with data, with statistics, and the emotion doesn't come with this. The emotion comes with the individuals. And as Mother Teresa said, when I look at the mass, I don't act, but if I look at the individual, I will do. So usually if you want to provocate emotion, you need to deal with the individual, and this is what we do with filmmaking.
You're also the founder of the Swiss Science Film Festival. What drove you to create it? And for people who don't know it, what is it about and what is the idea behind that?
Well, I started here in Switzerland teaching storytelling at the universities. And after teaching storytelling, we said, okay, but now we need to make these stories. We need to film them. So it was going from storytelling to teaching filmmaking. Okay, now we have the stories, the films, but we want to produce like somehow professional films. And we created the Science Filmmaker Marathon. And it's like 3 days. We have scientists, filmmakers, and they produce short films. And once we have the short films, we said, okay, we need to show these films. So that's why we created the Global Science Film Festival. And it will be in October. So it will be again this year in October in the Film Podium Cinema. But now we are also in Basel and in Bern.
Who are the kind of people who participate? Of course, young scientists, but what type of person usually wants to take part in this festival?
Yeah, mostly we have like scientists, but it was not the aim. The idea that we bring people to science, but of course people will not go to the universities, to the ETH. So we have like a midpoint, which was a film podium. So the cinema is the shortest distance between science and society for us. And that's why we said, okay, we go there. And now our audience, like 50-50, 50% they come from the university, another 50% general public.
I had the opportunity to be at the last festival and to see your latest documentary, Lupi Nostri. Could you tell me a little bit about the film?
During my PhD, I did like Erasmus, like 3 months in Italy. So one part of my PhD was in Italy, and I met a great supervisor. His name is Luca Rossi. And for me, he changed all my, way to tell stories, to see the world, because he is the really special man. He has no PhD, so he's a professor without a PhD, because he doesn't believe in the PhD. You can be a good professor without having PhD. You can be a good filmmaker without, studying filmmaking. And he is so special that even when he teach in his classes, he can give like 2 hours lecture without PowerPoint. And you can imagine that so few professors, they can do it, because he is based on storytelling. So it was Luca Rossi was for me special man. And last few years, he told me that he would be retired. Only he had like 2 years before retirement, and he was working with wolves. I said, wow, yes, I need to make like a feature film about wolves, because with wolves, you have always good stories. So my aim with the Lupi Nostri was not to be pro wolves and defend wolves. It was for me, really, it's about storytelling. I wanted to make a film, and I wanted to tell stories.
I would say most of us grow up with fairy tales where you have the wolf as a very crucial character, and usually the wolf is the bad wolf. And in your film, the wolf is also the central character, I would say. But as you said, you're not pro-wolf or against the wolf. And what impressed me about the film is how balanced you show these opposing perspectives. Could you tell a little bit about what audiences can expect from the film? So what kind of a story it is and what you are showing?
Yeah, many people after watching the film, they said, okay, but we expected the film to be about wolves, and it's more about the people who is working with the wolves. It's more about the emotion of these people and how they connect with the wolf. So this was the idea. And all the characters that I have in the film, I don't know them. All the connection was through my supervisor, Luca Rossi. So he has friends who are pro wolves, like the rangers, and some who don't like the wolves, like the shepherd in the film.
Lupi Nostri. What does that mean, and how did you come up with this title?
Lupi Nostri, actually, Italian is not my mother language, but my wife is Italian, and I speak a bit of Italian. And during filming, I was fascinated with the Italian language because it's really a romantic language. It's very special how they talk. And for me, it was strange why they say Lupi Nostri, because theoretically, you need to say I nostri lupi. Our wolves, it's not wolf ours. So this way of talking, it's only in Italian language that you say lupi nostri. You cannot say it in English, wolf ours. And when Italian people say lupi nostri, it means the wolves that we love or we care about. And that's why I selected, okay, the title now is very Italian. It's Lupi Nostri. And the whole film is also because it goes about emotion. People who love wolves, like the rangers, they talk with the wolves, like Jerry with wolf howling. They search for them, like with the dogs, like Gianabelle, that they want to find the dead wolves. And also the ones who don't like the wolves, like the shepherd, because they also kill many of his animals. During filming, they were killing like 25 per year. And last week, I talked to him and he told me that last year they killed 50 animals.
Wow. So we've mentioned a few of the characters now. For people who would like to see the film and maybe want to understand better what we're talking about right now, could you give a brief overview of who the characters are?
Yeah, mainly we have my supervisor, Luca Rossi, who has the contact with all these people, and he does research about if wolves eat wolves. Mainly they put cadavers of dead wolves, and they observe them with the cameras, and they want to see if other wolves will come to the cadaver and eat it. We have the shepherd, who is, of course, not happy. He is not against wolves, but he is not happy with them because every year they eat like 25 of his animals. We have some scientists also helping Luca Rossi. And we have the rangers. Some of them works with the dogs to find the dead wolves. And Jerry, the one who makes the wolf howling.
In the film, you have a shepherd who is obviously interested in protecting his sheep. They're constantly under attack. And then, of course, the wolf also has a right to exist. So you have the people who are trying to protect the wolf. It's a very pressing matter, actually, and it's often discussed in politics. When you were making this film, did you have certain assumptions maybe that were challenged as you were creating the documentary?
At the beginning, I always wanted to make a fiction film because I thought with fiction film, you can tell your fantasies. There's no facts. It's only your fantasy. And making documentary films was for me like a lot of limitation because you are filming reality. But at the end, when I started making the film, everything changed because I realized that the reality is stranger than fiction. Because with fiction, it makes sense. Okay, and reality, many times it doesn't make sense. Like with the shepherd, you go to the Alps in Italy and there is a shepherd and he had like 1,000 animals. But one of them is the black goat and he called it my girlfriend, So if I write a fiction film, there is no way that you write in your script, oh, there's a shepherd and he has a black goat, And at the end of the film, the wolves kill the black goat. Again, these things you cannot write in a fiction film. So for me, it was like the totally switch. Okay, this reality is sometimes better than fiction.
Yeah, reality writes the best stories sometimes,
exactly.
Right? But also that comes with a lot of challenges because it is out of your control. And at least from what I observed in the film, you also had to go to kind of more rural parts of Italy, or you were up in the Alps, and it's maybe not the easiest terrain to walk up with equipment. So how was that for you? What were the challenges that came with creating the film?
The decision to make the film was on the table. So I said, okay, I want to make film because this is my life. And I always postpone it making the film. Like I was waiting for the right moment, and the right moment will, never arrive. You need to say, okay, now I do it. So I decided to make the film, but suddenly I was lost there, as you said. Okay, this is the Alps, this mountain, wolves, and even I come from a culture where we hate dogs. So for me, like dogs, wolves, it's cold, mountain. It was for me really terrible. So it's how to survive. It's only that I just follow my supervisor. I follow the people, and they know that I am weak. For them, I am weak. I carry my camera and I follow them. You saw the first shot, take my camera and I follow Luca Rossi, and my camera is like 5 kilograms. So it is heavy, but when I look at him, he carry a cadaver of a wolf, 30 kilograms, and he goes in the mountain. And suddenly we arrive on the top of the mountain, and he opened the bag, he take the cadaver of the wolf, and he says, Samer, can you wait for me 2 minutes? And I said, what, really 2 minutes? And he just left me and he went down in the mountain. And I was there with my camera, a cadaver of the wolf. Oh, what should I do now? So like this moment was, but now I remember them and I am happy that I still here.
Yeah. Well, also, you were quite close to the wolves, right? Weren't you afraid?
Yeah, I had panic at the beginning. Before I start, filming, I had panic. But now following Luca Rossi, the Rangers, you are near from the wolf. It was really okay and easy. I had now more problems with the dogs. The white dogs, the Maremma dogs from the shepherd, they are really strong. And if you are near from the animals, they will react. But now, for me, I have respect for the wolves, but not fear anymore.
What's amazing is your camera is always very stabilized, so you couldn't notice any shakiness or that you were afraid from just the way you were operating the camera, let's say.
But also this was the idea, because I wanted only to observe what they are doing. There is no interactions with them. There are no interviews. I wanted to only to put the camera and observe what they do. And the idea was also that I do it without any cut. So it's one shot, one camera, you film it. It didn't work always, because sometimes, the characters, they look at the camera, for example. Oh, I don't want them to look at the camera. Like the scene when Jerry, the ranger, he makes the wolf howling. So I told him, Jerry, please, I film now. You do your work. Don't look at the camera. Don't look at me. And he makes the wolf howling, and the wolf react. And he was very emotional. And he looks at me and he's like, Samer, we have it. Oh no. So this I had to cut.
What went through your head when he did look into the camera? Did you think, oh, we can't use this anymore? Or how was that?
Yeah, it was for me a disaster, because I said, okay, now I have the footage, because usually he makes the wolf howling 100 times. And the wolves, they only reply twice a year. So we filmed something special, and he looks at the camera and he said, oh, but luckily I said, okay, I need to cut this part. That's why I have B-rolls. I filmed some of his point of view to the mountain, and we put it.
For those who haven't seen the film yet, this ranger, he has this amazing talent to imitate the wolf howls. How did you figure that out, and how did you end up filming him doing that?
Yeah, this was also a nice story, because I go to film Luca Rossi, and he makes the necropsy of the wolves. And he makes per day, so they collect the necropsies of the wolves and the cadavers. And he makes the necropsy maybe 20 wolves in one day. And you go there, and with the time you cannot breathe, because, it smells very bad. So from time to time, I have to go out, just to breathe. And who breathed with me was Jerry, So he goes also outside, he smokes. And he said, oh, I make wolf howling. You want to see it? I said, okay, why not? We do it. And we went there to make the wolf howling, and he told me, okay, don't have high expectation. Usually they don't reply. We will spend the whole night making wolf howling. And I said, okay, but do it once, only that I know where to put the camera, because I don't know what they will do. So I just put the camera and stand here. And the first time that he made the wolf howling, the wolves reply. And it was what we had. The other, he repeated again, but they didn't reply.
There's a fantastic scene that I remember. I think it's the rangers there in the forest, and they see the wolves. They're observing them. They have their binoculars, and they try to get closer and closer and closer. As a spectator, I was thinking, oh my goodness, how much closer do they want to get? Because it's still a threat to be so close to these wild animals. And then I was thinking, well, you were there as well, capturing it. How was that for you?
Yeah, I always convinced them that it's better to film them from behind. And it's not the correct, only that they are facing the wolves, all scenes with the wolves, it was like this, okay, it's better that you are here. But I always had like panic, but they don't feel it because they have no fear. And this was for me, okay, but they are much older than me and they don't fear the wolves, they are near from them. And at the end, you saw the scene, the wolf react and they just go. So at the end, the wolves, they have fear from us. Again, this scene is not correct. People shouldn't do it like this. People shouldn't go near from the wolves. They were crazy, with a lot of testosterone. They said, wow, because it's not normal that you see 9 wolves, in the forest. This is crazy. And they have the nocturnal camera, and when the wolves, they think that they don't see them. Even when they are near, because it's night and they know that people will not see them. But after that, I think the wolves, they realize that, they see us, and that's why they went.
Yeah, that I would need a lot of courage to put myself in a situation like that. So it's amazing that you were able to overcome your panic and just do it for the film.
This is what I learned from the film. So at the end of the film, I changed. I have no panic now from the wolves. I have respect. And it doesn't mean that I will go in the forest and I will be near from the wolves. There's no, it's absolute no, And I think what they did in the movie, it was not correct. It's not correct to be near from the wolves. They are scientists, and, the testosterone, they said, okay, let's go.
On this project, you were wearing so many different hats. So you're the director, you were the cinematographer, the producer, the editor. You basically made the film almost entirely on your own. What challenges did that come with?
Well, this is the bad way to make films, It's not good to do all these things yourself, but I didn't have money. And I had to start filming, as I told you, because my supervisor had 2 years to get retired. So I had to start. I had no money, no time to make money. And that's why I decided, okay, I will go for it and I will do everything. But it was not easy because you need to manage the camera. And sometimes I have 5 cameras in the same place. So I have the camera, the sound, I have the nocturnal camera, the dogs, many times they have also the GoPro camera, the drone in the sky. I also need to observe the scene and also hear what they are saying. So it was a bit complicated. Sometimes it's good because this intimacy, you cannot have it with like big crew. You have 3 people, 4 people, like to film when the shepherd wake up. There's no way,
What was the most challenging part of the film to create? Or maybe was there a scene that was particularly difficult to capture in the environment that you were in?
Well, I would say all scenes were one shot because you don't have, another opportunity to film it. Like the rangers, when they find a dead wolf, there is no way that they say, okay, we put it back and you film it again. It was like one shot. So for me, it was like, okay, I need to put the camera somewhere that I film everything. I hear the sound good. They don't look at the camera. So all of them were challenging. And for me, especially, it was like the intimacy with the shepherd, that I had to sleep with him and the roulotte where he sleeps and capture this moment in the morning when he is working. This was, for me, the most difficult part.
You said you didn't know these people before you started the project. So how was it to get to know them and also to gain their trust? Because it's also a very intimate setting and maybe someone can also feel a bit vulnerable if they're being filmed all the time or a lot of the time.
I would say most of them, they were natural. All of them are contact from Luca Rossi. And the thing is that most of them, they didn't meet during filming. So they don't know each other, mostly. Also, only the Rangers. But Luca Rossi has the contact with all of them, and they don't know each other. And it was great. And the surprise was after finishing the film, because we finished the film, and we wanted to show the film, and we had the premiere in Belgium, in Leuven. And after that, okay, we don't have money. How to go there? We need a car. And that's why they started contacting each other. They rented a car, a big one, and they traveled from Torino to Leuven, 12 hours, and they start talking to each other. So the shepherd with the rangers, the ones who hate the wolves, the ones who pro-wolves, they start talking. After that, 2-3 days in Belgium in the hotel and back to Turin, and now they are friends. I don't know how. We have even a WhatsApp group called Lupi Nostri, and every day they chat with each other.
But that's so beautiful because thanks to this project, you brought opposing sides together. So actually, people who are fighting, in a sense, for the opposite things now are friends and are in contact.
Yeah, this is a wonderful side from the film. But also I realized, okay, but it means people need to talk to each other. You know, we need to understand each other, because sometimes now we show the film in the cinema and there's a sector that they don't come. Like you show it and maybe, let's say, the hunters, they say, this is a film made by a scientist. So he is pro-wolves. You know, we don't go there, you know, because the film will be pro-wolves. They expected this. But it is not pro, you know. And this is what I find like sad, you know, that this people judge it before watching it.
After having made this documentary film, what conversations do you hope that it will spark? What would you like people to take from it?
You know that for filmmakers, they hope always that the film is not finished with the credits. You know, that people still think about the film, reflect, you know, about the film. And in the case of Lupi Nostri, I hope also for us here in Switzerland that we learn something from what is happening in Italy with the wolves. Because they have much more wolves than what we have in Switzerland. And the way that they deal with them is totally different. Because here, the government sometimes they shoot some of the wolves. In Italy, they are not allowed to shoot them. So I think it is also because of the bureaucracy. Maybe in Italy, they have more bureaucracy. But in this case, it is good to have some kind of bureaucracy that you don't change the laws easily and you go for the wolves and kill them. And I think that here in Switzerland, maybe we need to learn something from what is happening now in Italy.
The timing of your film was so great because also in the media it was such a hot topic and people discussing if they should be shot or not or protected. Yeah.
But I don't think that this is a good strategy to shoot the animals and after that you say, let's see what will happen after. No, we wait, we see what will happen first, you know, with them. And after that, we decide if we need to shoot them or not.
When you're in the cinema and you're watching the work that you've created and you have a whole crowd observing or watching the story you're telling, what emotions or what thoughts go through your head in that moment?
Now it's really terrible. I try not to go in the cinema with the audience. I watch it many times, but if I don't have to go to the cinema with the audience, I will not do it because for me, it's now very emotional. Because when there's a scene that I expect people to laugh and they don't laugh, I get really angry, you know. And also sometimes I see my mistakes in the screen because I say, okay, but this shot, I need to give it like 2-3 seconds more. Oh, here the camera, I put it not in the correct place. So you start seeing, watching your mistakes. Also, you expect people to react in a certain way. But of course, if you are in the cinema and you see the reaction of the people, and this is what you expect, you are very happy.
Then it's very nice, of course. To be there.
Yeah, well, one curiosity, whenever we go to film festivals with the shepherd, he always wants to watch the film in the cinema. And I asked him, why you want to watch it? You already watched the film like 1,000 times. And he always tell me, that he want to see the animals because he missed the animals.
That's so
So
sweet.
after 1-2 days traveling, one day without 1,000 animals was for him is too much.
That's so sweet. That's actually really beautiful that he loves his animals so much and misses them so much when he's away. He's such a strong character and personality in the film. There's one scene where he's on his motorcycle, I think, if I remember correctly, and he's got some stuff on the back of the motorcycle. And to me, it looks like he's about to drive off the cliff, and it looks so dangerous. So could you tell me a little bit about that?
Now I remember these things, when you describe them, because I am terrible in the mountain. I have fear from the height.
Me too. So that's why when I saw that, I was like,
and
wow.
he drives this motorcycle. It was for me crazy because I cannot walk sometimes, they say, we go there. I say, I cannot. And he goes there with the motor. It was for me, like he is really crazy. But he is born there. So he's one, let's say it in a good way, he's one animal more, he is there because he has a huge power. He is charismatic. And this is also one thing from the film. You show many people, but many of the audience, they have empathy more with the shepherd. I don't know why, but he has this charismatic way. And people, even if they are pro-wolf, they have more empathy with him.
Were there any moments while filming where you were really surprised by something you didn't expect at all?
Yeah, it was all surprise, Whenever you go with these people, it was like a surprise. Like you go to film a scene, and suddenly the professor gives like the urine glass to the guy, and he said, "This is a present for you." And I said, "Really?" And after that, they go and they put it on the cadaver of the wolf. So everything was like for me a surprise. Also, the reaction of the dogs when they see a dead wolf, even if it's a cadaver, the behavior was totally strange, because usually these dogs, when they find the cadaver, they need to sit down and signal the wolf, but they didn't do it like this. They rush out. They had fear from the cadaver.
It sounds, of course, like you have an enormous amount of respect for your former supervisor, Luca Rossi, and like you really wanted to tell a story with him. But at the same time, this project seems to have challenged you in many ways, and you had to face several fears. So the fear of heights, the wolves, the dogs. What motivated you to push through all of this and say, okay, I'm still going to do this project regardless of all these challenges?
Yeah, as I said, it was my dream to make films. I want to make films, tell stories. It's not pro-wolves or against wolves. I just watched an interview with Tarantino, and he said he makes film for himself, and the others are invited. It was like for me, it's great, because sometimes you have the ego of the filmmaker, and they really make films for themselves, and the others are invited. For me, also, it's my passion for storytelling, for filmmaking. And as I told you, I was delaying this. I want to make film. And at the end, I said, okay, now it's time to do it.
This was your first feature-length film. How does it feel to have completed this?
Well, it is not easy. I would say the life of filmmaker is much harder than the life of scientist. So in 1 year as a filmmaker, I had more rejections than what I had like 10 years as a scientist. So we see films, film festivals, a lot of glamour, red carpet, but the reality is different. It's a tough, environment. There is a lot of competition, but I'm happy that I did this project. And maybe next year I will make a fiction one.
Do you already know what the story should be for your fiction project?
Yeah, I will tell you, but not all details because.
Sure, of course.
But the good news for you, like the shepherd will act in the fiction film. Mm-hmm. So it will be a fiction film about the shepherd who fall in love in migrant, and he discovered that she is a victim of sex trafficking. And the shepherd will be the main character, so he will act. This is not his life. He will be an actor in the fiction film.
So it sounds like a pretty serious topic.
Yes.
Going from one serious documentary topic to the next very serious topic. Does that affect you also personally somehow when you are so invested in telling a certain story? Are you able to distance yourself sometimes and try to just relax and not think about it, or does it fully consume you when you're working on?
I think once you start writing a film, you are 100% there, And sometimes I wake up in the morning and 2 a.m. I cannot sleep. You go your computer and start writing. You think always in the scenes that you will film. So it's like 100% of the time you are there in the story, and you just go to your computer, you change the scene, you show it to friends, they give you feedback. But I also love this experience,
So when did you start filming Lupi Nostri, your documentary?
It was like 4 years ago. It was 2 years of filming and 1 year of editing. So it was like a really long time. And that's why for me, maybe fiction is better. It's less time.
Yeah, now we're in 2026 and you're still...
Yes.
I mean, you're still presenting the film and it will be out in cinemas in Zurich soon.
Yes.
So where can people watch Lupi Nostri?
We will start in April. So it's next month. We have a program for schools and the film podium. And we have another program in Kino Koni for the general public. But we will also show it in different cities. We will be also in Davos in June.
And will you be in the cinema? Will you torture yourself watching it again?
Yes. I have no other choice. I have to do it. And there are always a Q&A after the screening, and I will be there.
So now that you're transitioning from documentary to fiction, what approach are you taking? Because in documentary, everything was kind of out of your control and a surprise. Now with fiction, what inspires you and where do you draw your ideas from?
Yeah, mainly from what I experienced with the shepherd. So many of the scenes now in the fiction film is from the shepherd, and I also meet him from time to time, and he tell me stories, and I write. So many of my stories now, they come from the shepherd.
The shepherd is a man you did not know before your documentary, and now he's become such an important person.
Yes.
In your life, and not only that, you're also influencing his life because he's now going to act, which is something different.
Act, yeah. I was surprised. I met him last time, like two weeks ago, and this was the first time that we told him that we want him to act, because he always was expecting like a documentary film. I told him that I will make another film, and he was expecting documentary film. And last time we said, it's a fiction film. And you will have a relation with like a sex worker, and she is a victim of sex trafficking. And he said, yes, we do it.
Perfect.
Easy. Yes.
Easy.
Yes.
It's nice when things work out like that, right? Will he have to do some training, or are you just going to try and go for it the way he is?
Yeah, the good thing is that we have everything with him. So we have his life, the animals, the roulotte where he lives. So the set is there. But he need to act because this is not his real life, So the good thing that we will be filming like in 6 months. Usually fiction films, you film 1 month, but we will be filming in 6 months, and it will be like 1 week every month. So he will have time to read the script, and we will make some rehearsal with him.
Going back to what you were saying about how being a filmmaker is in some ways much more challenging, or difficult than being a scientist, you said you've had to face a lot of rejections. How do you bounce back from those and not let that discourage you?
Well, now I am used to. I think it is the same for you. You are also a filmmaker. You have a different position. You work for the ETH. I am a freelancer. But you know how it works. You know, if you are a freelance filmmaker, it means there are many rejections, many projects that you propose, people don't accept them. And I should say that by now, academia is not flexible. So universities are not so flexible with the new ideas that you bring for them. That, like, we brought the idea of the film festival, and the idea from the film festival was that we organize it for the first year. And after that, the universities will take over. And now we are in the 8th edition, and the film festival is not by the universities. But this is part now of my life. Rejection is something normal.
It's normal, but it's still challenging. So you must be also quite resilient as a person, I would assume.
I hope so. I hope so. Also, I told you before, also with the film. So you make your film also, and you don't decide when to show it. It's the film festival who decide when to show it. So you are pregnant for 9 months, and the others will decide when you give birth. You know, so. And this was with Lupi Nostri. So you submit your film to film festivals, rejections. Sometimes they don't watch the film, and you know that they didn't watch the film.
How do you know that they didn't?
Yeah, because your film is, you put it in Vimeo, and in Vimeo you have all, yeah, you know it. And you say, but how they rejected the film without watching the film, and you paid like 200 Swiss francs.
Yeah. That's kind of the downside also of the festival industry. Of course, they make money with all the submissions, but then if they don't watch, they probably don't have time to even watch all of the films.
No, they don't have. Like, they receive like 3,000 films per year.
Yeah.
So how would you watch all these films and make a correct sell? So it's not like science that you submit your paper for a scientific journal, and after that, even they will give you a feedback. You know why your paper is not good if they reject it. But with filmmaking, you submit your film, they reject it. Okay, why? Well, you don't know.
And it's so subjective. It could be any reason.
Yeah.
I was actually once talking to a producer, one of my teachers when I was in film school, and he said that he started submitting films directly to the director of the festival. He knew that then they would watch it, because otherwise they had interns scanning the submissions, and the chances of you not getting in, even if you had a very good film, were very high.
I should say that in Switzerland, we have Swiss films. You know them. It's like a national institution. They support filmmakers, and they supported me a lot. So if really without them, I would be totally lost.
What are your hopes going forward in the filmmaking industry? What is your dream?
Yeah, I really dream that we connect more universities with filmmakers, because universities, they cannot solve their problem with science communication, on their way. That we have a multimedia department, we have professors who make research about science communication, which is good, we need it. But really, you need to bring the others to your field. You need to bring filmmakers, you need to connect with film festivals. And this is my hope, that we have more connection, between academia and filmmaking.
Universities are, of course, also fighting budget cuts, and the first things to go are the creative things of the filmmaking, the communication with maybe more creative approaches.
I just come from a Human Rights Film Festival in Geneva, a great film festival. It was my first time there. Amazing how they brought the audience, and they have a special program called Impact Days. Okay, and in this, they want to promote films and connect with the audience, with the right audience. And when you look at the program that they prepared, most of them want to connect with universities. But who is from the universities in these film festivals? No one.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, this is what I said at the beginning, that I think universities, they want to solve the problem of communication with the general public by doing their job that they did always, like that. We have multimedia department, they make some films, and this is good. We need it. We need this. But also we need to open our doors and bring the others, that they make films for us. And for filmmakers, all of them, they want to connect with academia. So I think the problem is from us. We cannot blame filmmakers. It's from us, from universities, that we need to connect with the others.
At the Global Science Film Festival last year, I ended up sitting next to a woman and we just started talking. I didn't know her. And I just asked her, "Oh, are you also a scientist? Are you also working in academia?" And she said, "No, not at all. I just stumbled across this festival one year and have been coming ever since and love it." And so
Perfect.
that was the perfect example of showing how you can bring the public into the cinema and learn something about academia and science. So that was really nice to hear.
Yeah, I don't say that we don't need the multimedia. We don't need to make research about science communication. This we definitely we need it, but we need to have more. That we open our doors and we bring these filmmakers to the academia.
So how do you think we can do that?
Yeah, we need we need people like you that, for example, now you make short films. Why don't you make like 30 minutes, like NZZ format? We need these things. Okay. That you coordinate also more filmmakers, that they make films about the project that you have in the ETH.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
That's definitely food for thought. I will think about
consider
that.
it.
Yes, I will definitely consider that. I have another question. Do you have a piece of advice for people who maybe chose a more secure path and are still dreaming about doing something else? Do you have a suggestion or a piece of advice on how they can take the leap and pursue what they're actually dreaming of? Because that's what you did.
I would say don't wait for the right moment, because it will not come. Just do it. If you want to switch from academia to filmmaking, just go for it. The only thing is it's better to do it early, because in my case, it was a bit late, after PhD, after postdoc. So if you want to do it, go for it. And most of my students now, they want to do it. They come to my workshop for filmmaking, storytelling, because they know that they will not stay in the academia. In the academia, there's no place for everyone. So they know that they have to change. And one way, it's science communication, and that's why they come to my workshops. And I feel that most of them, they want to make this change.
Of course, that also comes with a huge challenge, and the biggest question most people have, or the biggest thing that holds people back, is just financial stability and security. How do you think people can deal with that?
Yeah, this was always my problem. Still my problem, to be honest. So, okay, now you change, but there you don't have a permanent position. I am lucky now that I can teach filmmaking, storytelling, but you need to struggle, There is no other option. And I hope that the academia also, they will change their mind. They give more opportunities for these young people also.
If you had one message that you would like our listeners to take away from this conversation, or perhaps something we haven't mentioned yet, what would that be?
Come and watch my film. No, I would say, I don't know, we need to communicate more, because this, for me, it was the key point when I made the movie, Lupi Nostri, that people don't communicate. And because we don't communicate, of course, we will not understand each other. And this is what I said in the movie. The ranger, the shepherd, they never met before. They never talked before. And now, even they have like WhatsApp group, Lupi Nostri, and they chat every day. So the key is always to communicate, and this is your job, as communication.
Samer, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. And I loved seeing your film, so I will also add to your message, go watch the film Lupi Nostri if you can in Zurich. Will there also be options to stream it online at some point, or is this still in the making?
We wait for maybe September, and hopefully it will be in Amazon.
Okay.
But first, go to the cinema.
Yes, first go to the cinema. It's anyway a great experience to share a movie with others.
Thank you.
So all the best. And
my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing.